Good morning. My name is Deborah Jones. I'm an iCommute Employer Program Lead and Associate Account Executive at SANDAG. I want to thank you for joining our discussion today. I saw the registration and I'm happy to see a lot of familiar names and many new ones listening today, so welcome. So just before we get into the content, a couple of housekeeping things. Wanted to make a note. So there's a box on the right-hand side of your screen for questions. Please feel free to type in your questions there. To save time, the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, but just go ahead and type in whatever comes to mind as we're going through things and we'll get through those. And then the second housekeeping note is that the webinar is being recorded. And that way we'll be able to share the recording with you. It will be posted on our website, but you can pass it on to people within your organization or re-listen to it if there are things that you missed and you wanted to hear again. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that. Next slide for our agenda. So for our agenda today, I'll just give you a brief overview of SANDAG and the iCommute program. And then I'm going to give you an update on telework in the region, and then an introduction to our new iCommute Telework Assistance Program and how that came into existence. Then a colleague of mine, Erika Saari, she's a consultant to SANDAG working for STEER. She's going to go a bit deeper into the Telework Assistance Program modules, the ones that we put together for you to assist, and then how your organization can get involved. And then followed by a guest that we have, Tena Abrams from Sharp Healthcare. She's the manager of workforce support, and she's going to share information about their telework program, a very successful telework program. And as I mentioned before, the questions, the Q&A will be at the end. So that's what we have going on. So next slide, please. So now I would like to share a little bit about SANDAG and the iCommute program. For those of you who are very regulars with our iCommute employer program, you've heard this before, but basically I just wanted to let you know again that SANDAG is the San Diego Association of Governments, and it is the region's long-term planning agency. Our board of directors is made up of representatives from all 18 cities and the county. And we're responsible for answering questions like what's our region going to look like for the future? What's a vision? Where will we live? How will we get around? And the elements that drive our economy and preserve the environment. We make a very concerted effort, strong effort in including everyone into this. We've just adopted a diversity statement and a quality statement that we're very proud of. And we're interested in maintaining our quality of life. So iCommute is a program of SANDAG within its mobility division called Transportation Demand Management, or TDM. And we are all about encouraging other modes of transportation to get to work, to alleviate traffic and also to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And so we assist commuters with transit solutions. We have a subsidized van pool program. We have regional support for biking, including hosting the Bike to Work Day event every year. We have a guaranteed ride home program, and of course we have information about telework. So we provide assistance to employers so that the employers can reach those commuters by reaching their employees. And we help employers by developing and implementing customized employer commuting programs that help lower costs, increase productivity, and help the environment. So that's us in a nutshell. And I have a question here on the slide that is just kind of tease it up for some information, some graphs that I have in the slide. So that is, how has the pandemic affected traffic? And how has it affected the region's car travel and telework rates? Next slide. So here we did an analysis of the first 4 months of the shutdown that we had earlier last year. So from March until July, we've got daily traffic volumes. And it's basically showing that in April, we had the largest decrease in traffic, 50% down from the year before in 2019. And then traffic began to return to quote unquote normal June, July, with an 18% decrease compared to 2019. And relatedly, air quality improved during that time period per the State Air Resources Control Board. So a large percentage of those, that reduction in trips was, of course, due to people working from home, but also because people weren't out driving to recreation or entertainment or driving to meet up and socialize with friends or family. Next slide. So we conducted a survey of employers. This was in the early summer, and we contacted 137 employers, and we asked them how many of their employees were working from home. We contacted a variety of different employers in different industries, and we asked them also what their plans were for continuing with telework. And so because a lot of employers, this was kind of a crash test, a crash course into teleworking and how that would work, we just wanted to reach out to employers when it had just happened to get some feedback from them. So here we've got 55% said that they had employees that were teleworking. And then when we asked if they were going to continue with their telework program, 26% said yes. To offer telework, 46% said no, and then 28% said maybe. So we're looking to maybe turn that 28% into a yes. Maybe there's some resources that are needed for that. All right, next slide, please. So when we asked the employers about this percentage of what they wanted their employees to do, most common response was less than 25% would be teleworking. And then of those, 9% said that they would offer telework full time. So this is kind of assuming that employers, if they did have a telework program, it would probably be 1 or 2 times per week. That was the most common response that we got back. Next slide, please. And then this is data that is ubiquitous between, pre-COVID and during COVID, the top 5 reasons why employers do offer telework. So increased job satisfaction is the top answer. Productivity, improved work-life balance. Well, that's kind of questionable right now because for those of us that are teleworking at home all the time, this is work and life right here. Helping the environment. And then, of course, cost savings, so reducing the leases on commercial office space. So this is from the results that we've got from our survey. Next slide is, so here, what we've got here is some data that has come back from Census Data, and also we have a national repository of data statistics about occupations, and then relate that to our San Diego region. And what we know is that of all of the occupations that we have in San Diego, only 61% of them, 61% are not conducive to telework, meaning that they have to be out in the field. Maybe they are delivery drivers, maybe they are fire captains, or fire department workers and things, and people will have to be out in the field, so they can't work from home. 64% of occupations are considered essential jobs. And then 42% of the essential jobs are not conducive to telework. So, it's not like we can tell everybody, hey, work from home, because that's just not possible for our region. Next slide, please. We have telework helps us achieve a commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and we would love to have a high rate in our regional plan models. It must be backed by data that shows that it's reasonable and achievable by the regulatory agencies. we've got in our regional plan that we do every 4 years, we have been putting in telework as a way for us to meet our greenhouse gas emission targets. In the 2011 regional plan, we actually had just 10% telework was going to contribute to our goal, meeting our goal by just 10% of telework. So every year it gets a little bit more and a little bit more. And now because of this, stay-at-home COVID situation and people being introduced to teleworking, we're expecting a higher rate of telework in our proposed regional plan for 2021, which is going to our board of directors for approval later this year. So that one, we're now expecting it to be 27%, so quite a large increase, and that means that that will be fewer greenhouse gas emissions out into the environment. So I want to now pivot over to our employer program, and when the stay-at-home order went into effect and the employers that we work with required their employees to work from home, we pivoted our employer program over to telework. And so maybe you tuned into some webinars that we had last spring and during the summer with various resources for telemanagers and teleworkers. Well, those resources and those webinars that we have are recorded and on our webpage. And so just visit iCommuteSD.com for those telework resources. It's divided up by employer and resources also for teleworkers themselves. So very good resources that we are updating on a regular basis. So next slide, please. So to go a further step from just offering a few webinars and some resources on our webpage, we have initiated a new Telework Assistance Program. It's a pilot, and we would like to assist the employers that we do work with so that they can formalize their telework program. So the employers can sign up. It's free. It's a hands-on telework program assistance with resources to help employers formalize long-term teleworking. And what our goal is that we can get more employers to formalize their telework program and therefore reduce trips on a more formal basis, as compared to having something very ad hoc or informal, and maybe it's not something that's written up into a policy. So the more cars that we can get off the road to reduce congestion and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, it's a real win for everybody in the region. So next slide. I'm now going to introduce my colleague, Erika Saari. She's a consultant to SANDAG iCommute, and she works for STEER. And Erika's here today. She's going to tell more about the Telework Assistance Program. Morning, Erika.
Hi, Deborah. Good morning.
Hi. So she's going to go into more detail about how we've put together the Telework Assistance Program. And as I mentioned before, if you have any questions throughout, please just add those to the question section on the webinar. So over to you, Erika.
Hi, thank you, Deborah. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for taking the time. And I hope you learn a lot about the new Telework Assistance Program. My name is Erika Saari. I am a consultant for the iCommute programs and the iCommute. And my job, I work with many organizations in the region, and I help them with their sustainable transportation programs, and now also with their Telework Assistance Program. So I'm very excited to be here, and I believe we're going to start with a couple of poll questions. So. Okay, so here it is, the first poll question, if you take a minute to respond, and that is, what is currently the biggest challenge your organization is facing with telework? Please select one. Is it the policy, employees, managing employees, productivity levels, or home office equipment? Okay, we give a few more seconds to respond. Okay, so managing employees remotely is the first one, and then not having formal policy. Okay, so we're going to talk. Oh, also, I'm sorry, I didn't see the other one, the home office equipment purchases. Okay, yeah, so we're going to talk about some of those issues during the presentation today. All right, so is there one more poll question? Okay, yes, there it is. Have you found that your employees are more or less productive teleworking? I've heard a little bit of everything. Very productive, about the same, less productive. It just varies by organization. So I'm curious to see what is it like for yours or for the average. Okay, do we have the answers? All right, so about the same. Well, that's good to know. And then very productive. And the small percentage for less productive. That's very good to know. All right, so let's get started with my part of the presentation. So now that my colleague Deborah has explained to you the overview of the telework in the region and also has introduced what is the program about the program, I'm going to go into the details and answer the questions of how does the Telework Assistance Program work, what type of services it offers, and very important, where to sign up so you can start receiving all these free assistance. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so I like to look at the positive side of things. So I decided to start my presentation by talking about the benefits for your organization when signing up for this program. So as it's hard to believe that we have been almost in a year in this pandemic telework mode for many of us. And we are now, it was a transition that it was hard for many, but then now into a year, it's time to face the decision. What are we going to do? Are we going to continue? And really just think about it strategically. How are we going to move forward in the next months or in the next year with these telework practices? So if your organization is at that point of decision and you are considering enhancing, continuing, or formalizing your current telework practices, so these could be an assistance programs that could be very beneficial to start that internal conversation and start like figuring out the goals and the strategy about the benefits of continuing teleworking. All right, so that's my first benefit. The second one is that you're going to get one-on-one assistance, and it is just it is going to be as much as you want, as much involvement that you want from us, or as little as you want. The third one is customizable. We understand that all organizations are different. They have different needs, they have different sizes, they have different departments. So we move at your pace, and we also customize the content based on what your organization needs. And finally, and amazingly, everything that you are included in this assistance program is free for your organization. You don't have to pay anything. And by that, I mean like from surveys, preparation, marketing materials, the consultant's time, everything, incentives to for the surveys, so many things, templates, so many things. So just think about all those benefits for your organization. Now let's go into how does it work. All right. So how does the Telework Assistance Program work? It is pretty simple. It consists on 3 steps. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time here to explain how they work. So step number 1, very simple, and you can start doing that today. You just need to go online on the iCommute website and sign up. There is an online form there where you just type it, send it, and then one of our representatives is going to give you a call. Easy. Step number two. The step number two has two components, and those two components is for us to get to know your organization. So we're going to set up 60-minute conversation with you. A chat with you is going to be virtual, and in that session, we're going to answer all the questions that you have about the program, all different, anything that you want to know, and we're also going to complete an organizational needs assessment. So that's where you get to tell us where you are in the telework status, what are your needs, and maybe you don't want to have all the answers, but that's what we're here for, to help you figure out those answers. So that's the component number one, organization. Component number two is to get to know how are your employees feeling about the whole telework. Are they happy? How are they feeling? So for that, we created a 6 to 8 minute survey, and that survey, it is a template and it's also customizable. You can add questions or remove some questions. It measures also vehicle miles traveled, time travel, many things, and especially the satisfaction of your employees. The only thing that you need to do for that component is to distribute the survey. We use the SurveyMonkey platform. We give you the link and we analyze the data. We put together a report. We present it to you, and also we provide with incentives, gift cards for you to get your employees to participate. So that's the step number two. And then from there, now we know about you, your organization, your employees. Now we move to step number three, and this is where we actually take action, and we start implementing some of the modules that I'm going to tell you more about. And before we move to the next slide, I want to say that because each organization is different, so these three steps, the timing is going to vary by organizations. So I work with companies that these three steps take them 3 weeks, and for others it may take 3 months. So it just varies, and we go at your pace. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. I like to explain you the 5 modules that we are using for this assistant program. So we asked different industry experts, telework industry experts, and also we conducted some focus groups with local organizations to find out what are those areas that were more challenging with telework. And we also wanted to know what are those key elements that make a telework program successful. And those were the 5 areas that came up in multiple times. So I'm going to, each of those are modules that we design, and they are designed in sessions of 1 hour, where the iCommute rep, I'm one of them, will present to you and give you tips and guidance and best practices on each of these topics. After we complete that session, that 1 hour session, then we'll follow up with different resources. Okay, so I'm going to go into more detail about those 5 modules in the next slide. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so let's talk about module 1, telework policy and agreements. So I believe the structure is very important in everything, in every business, in very many areas. And telework is no different. So in this telework policy and agreements module, we talk about helping you identify those business objectives and goals to continue teleworking. So right now, many organizations are in the transition of going back into the office, and they want to know how to incorporate the teleworking into those plans. Is it going to be a hybrid mode? Is it going to be a staggered schedule? How is it going to be like? Who gets to continue working from home, and who gets to go into the office? How do you determine that? So we're going to start with identifying those objectives that the company wants, why they want to continue teleworking. We're going to talk about the difference between telework policy and agreements. And we're also going to talk about the different components that are important for a telework policy. Once we complete that virtual session of 60 minutes, then we can provide you different resources as you need. Like we have templates of policy, agreements, safety checklist. If your organization already has a policy or agreements in place, we can help you review what you have. If your organization doesn't have anything, then we can give you tips on how to create that new policy with those components that we mentioned in the module. And number 2, so exploring employee eligibility. In this one, we talk about plans to transition back into the office. And we also talk about eligibility. Actually, I think I mentioned that in the previous slide, but really this is the module where we talk about who gets to go into the office, who gets to stay at home. What if somebody wants to keep teleworking, but their job position really doesn't allow it? How do you deal with those situations? We also talk about successful teleworker traits, and I think that is important because there are some personalities that are great at teleworking and others that maybe they don't like it. And more than anything is this module, we talk about the importance of having clear and defined expectations for your telework program. I think that's very, very important. And we follow up with some resources, checklists for employee eligibility, home office safety. We have been working on our homes, but maybe we can improve it and make them better, like to make them safer and more enjoyable. And also we have samples of telework requests and approval forms. 3, please. All right, number 3. I believe that many of you would agree with me that the human asset is one of the most important assets in the businesses. And so we definitely have to include this, this training or this module into the assistance program. In this one, we provide best practices and tips for managers and employees. And we divide it into managers training and employees training because some of the needs they have or the challenges they have are similar, but they face different differences. So in the managers, we talk about leadership, also successful remote manager traits, and also common challenges, trust that has come up, communication, motivation, time management, everything that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, the manager section. Now for employees, we talk about other things, ergonomics, anxiety, we have exercises for stretches, time management, communication, childcare right now during the telework, the pandemic telework, how to deal with that, some tips with that, how to be more productive. And so one element that is very, very helpful to define these two training sessions are the results of the employee survey. Because with that information, then we will know what are those things that your employees or your managers are really needing, and how can we customize these sessions, the training sessions, to really speak to what they need. And so, yeah, so if you haven't mentioned, but each module, the audience for each module is going to be different. So in this case, we have managers, we have employees. For the employee eligibility, maybe we have someone from HR. So if that's something like we're going to be deciding with you along the process. All right, we can move to module number 4. Oh, I feel like I'm talking a lot. Sorry if it's too many details. We're going to have a session at the end to answer questions. And again, this is also being recorded in case this is just too much information. So module number 4, technology. So technology is a big, big component in our virtual world, right? Right now, working from home, we just need to be connected with technology, good internet, and we know that sometimes it fails. So on this module 4, we talk about the pros and cons of the technology and the tools that you're currently using in your organization. And we also give you a list of best digital platforms for different purposes, like you see on the screen. And we also cover some employer tips for security and confidentiality, which we all know that is very, very important in this digital world. And also tips to tackle IT issues, because all of us have IT issues all the time. And I'm going to the module number 5. Okay. Module number 5, please. Next slide. Okay, this is the last module. And this one is about evaluation. So I believe, and it's not just me, everybody, like what gets measured gets improved. And it's no different with telework. So with this evaluation module, that's where we are aiming to do, to give you those tools to evaluate the program. So the first step is to implement the telework program. But from there, it is managing it, maintaining it, and evaluating so you can make decisions of how to make it grow, expand it, modify it, okay? So in this one, we talk about primary components of evaluating the telework program, what you should measure and what you should measure. So things that we have is cost benefit analysis for real estate savings, cost reduction for related to employee, environmental impact, of course, for us, for iCommute, that is very, very important, and productivity. So as part of the resources, we have a worksheet and a guide to analyze those cost benefit analysis that we can provide to you, and you can do it internally with your at your organization. Okay, so those are the 5 modules. I hope you find them useful. I'm going to be here at the end to answer questions. And this one, very important. So how do you sign up for this program? If you like some of these modules and you like the program and you want to take advantage of all the benefits that we talked about, this is how you sign up. You need to go to iCommute.com/telework assistance. And then at the bottom of the page, where you see that red circle, you're going to see a link that is going to take you to the sign up form. And we're also going to send you that link after the webinar, so you can have time to do it after the webinar if you like. Once you sign up, it's just a form that you need to complete with very general information about your organization. What's your name? What's your organization? What's the size? What are you expecting to receive from these telework program assistants? And then from there, we'll give you a call and we'll go through the step 2 and step 3 that I already mentioned during this presentation. Okay, so if you see, it's very simple, and we're here. We will be very, very happy to help you. Now, moving on with the presentation, I want to tell you, now it's time to introduce a telework success story, and I'm very happy to introduce Tena Abrams. She's the HR manager for workforce support for Sharp Healthcare. And we have worked, iCommute and Sharp have worked together for many, many years. And they have been a great iCommute partner. I have to say that their telework story is amazing. And also, in 2003, SANDAG iCommute launched their first telework pilot program. And Sharp was one of those pioneers when telework was not even cool and popular like it is today. They were very trendy, and they jumped in and they were part of that pilot program. And since then they started, and they have managed it and make it grow amazingly. So I'm very happy that you're here, Tina, to tell us your story. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Erika, for that introduction. It's been a pleasure to work with iCommute through the years with Deborah and with Erika, and it's brought us along beautifully. Years ago, when we first set up our program, of course, we started with van pool, having bus passes, doing carports, all of the different things we needed to do in order to help to reduce emissions, gas emissions. And then we developed our internal meeting or committee, which is iCommute, which is Commuter Solutions, and we are a division of our Go Green committee. So our goal then too was to come up with how can we control the emissions that we do here at Sharp Healthcare. So that was the driving force behind all of the different activities that we put in place. Next slide, please. So how did we develop telework team developed? We got together and we conducted surveys. We talked to managers. We had focus group meetings. Of course, we had to look at getting involvement or commitment from the administrative team to be able to move forward with that. And we had to assess the tools that we would need for employees to work from home. And we had to look at the cost of starting the program. And the driving force, as I've mentioned before, what we wanted to do, which was, of course, a couple of things. We had a Go Green committee that was telling us, come on, what can we do to reduce emissions? Then we also had departments in our hospitals that were saying we have to move these people off the hospitals and move them to the corporate building because we want to have more clinical activities. So we had that driving force moving over to the main building, and we have to figure out where we're going to put everybody. So those were the big driving forces behind us. Next slide, please. Okay, so what departments did we bring together? What were our stakeholders? We had information systems, we had finance, we had administration, we had safety and ergonomics. Now for information systems, you're saying, why them? Well, all the technology of what people use at home, what programs, what software, what monitors, what computers, everything, cell phones, everything has to be evaluated. What can we send with the employee to their home that they can use, that Sharp can support and make sure that it's safe? Then finance, of course, we need money. We need to have a budget set aside for the tools that we need to purchase, and we need managers not to think, well, if it's coming out of my budget, I'm not going to send a person home. We need to have a separate budget for our telework program. Administrative support, you can't do it without it. With administrative support, you do have people that'll listen to you. They may be reluctant to get involved, but if they know administration is supporting, they get involved. Safety and ergonomics, we had to have big discussions about this situation. We're sending people home. Do we want to evaluate their home offices? Are we obligated to do that? Do we have to provide their desks, chairs, all that kind of stuff? All of that was evaluated. Now, in the early stages, there was a decision we would go out to employees' homes to just look at their setups, etc. And then we decided we did not have to do that. So we cut back tremendously on sending people out to people's homes, and the employees can sign or can have their home set up as they wish as far as their home offices. And we just advise them, of course, what the appropriate things would be. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so Sharp Healthcare Telework Program, as Erika mentioned, it started out with consultants in 2003, but we really didn't get a good swing into everything until about 2014, when the team really started pushing it a little bit more. Now, I'm jumping ahead and jumping all over, so I'm just trying to give you a clear overview, and then of course we can answer questions. So by the end of 2019, we had over 800 teleworkers involved in our telework program, and we were happy. We had gone through all the phases. You know, we had forms for employees to sign when they were going out to telework. We had forms for the managers to sign when they were referring people to our program. We had everything going through our HR department, so it would be all legal, one place, one person overlooking it. We had a whole spreadsheet in the IS team that were committed that for each job category, what were the tools that this job category need. We had ironed all that out, so we were doing very well by 2019. So 800 people, we were happy, really. And then what happened? COVID came into place. So when COVID came into place, it was, thank you, we're happy, and I'm so glad we already have a telework program, but we have got to decide what we want to do with all of these employees. We have to make sure everybody's safe coming into our hospitals. We don't want employees going to the cafeteria, walking back and forth. How many people can you put on an elevator? So the call came down from an administration right away between March and April and said, send as many people home as possible. Now, because we had the telework program in place, we were able to get our count up to 2,000 employees out by April of 2020. It was amazing without any hardship. You saw employees leaving left and right. And our program worked beautifully, and the majority of those employees are still out working from home. And of course, the driving force behind that is COVID-19. Now, we did a study, probably in August of 2020, about how the telework program was working, whether employees liked it or didn't like it. We got a percentage back of 89% of employees said, thank you for allowing us to work from home. As we all know, every job is not capable of working from home, but those people that could go to work from home were allowed to. And it's worked out beautifully. In the study also, of course, you have this big indecision from employees. Do I want to come back? Do I not want to come back? Do I want to stay home? Do I like that? So now we're starting to look at how do we make this work and make sure everything's cohesive on a long-term basis, because we know there's a lot of employees that'll want to start saying, well, 75% of the time I'll work from home, but I do want to drop in. I do like that social contact. So we're working through those things now. We keep monitoring, believe it or not, our parking lots. Because if the parking lot fills up, then you say, okay, too many employees are starting to come back to work. We've got to see what's going on. And we will maybe put the call out to managers to say, what's up? Too many employees are coming back to work or whatever. And then the parking lot starts slowing down again. So that's one of the main reasons how we monitor how many people are coming in. But when I sum up everything that we've done and I look back at teleworking and look at the emissions that we've saved and look at saving workspace and having employee happiness and job security and all that, the question, does telework really work? And my answer is going to say yes, telework does work. And should you get involved with it on a small scale or even a large scale? My answer is going to say yes, in any way that you can, because as the workforce goes, more and more people are going to be working from home, and they like to have that opportunity to be able to do that. So my advice would be to start up your program and take advantage of what SANDAG and iCommute is offering. So next is questions, and I think we're going to tie that all in together. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Tina. That's it's so great to hear your success story. And I know you guys have been on the news too, talking about the success story of the telework for Sharp. So that's amazing. Now we're going to move to the questions section, the Q&A section. And for that, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Deborah Bastos. She is one of the consultants at here, me, and she's going to be our moderator for the questions. So, hi, Deborah.
Hi, thanks everyone. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please feel free to type the question in the questions box located on the right-hand side of your screen. Also, as a reminder, the recording as well as the slides will be provided to all the attendees. So we do have a question that has come in. The first one is, do we need to go through all the modules or can we pick and choose?
That is a very good question. Yes, that's a very good question. I should have mentioned that, and with so much information, I forgot. But yes, those 5 modules, you can pick and choose. So when we have the information based on their needs, the organization needs, and also the survey, that's how we, as iCommute reps, we're going to recommend what modules should be would be a benefit for you. And then you and your organization and your team will decide which ones you want to do and when do you want to start taking them. Thank you. That's a great question.
Another question that's come in is there a minimum number of teleworking employees an organization must have to enroll in the program? Erika or Deborah?
I can answer those. Do you want to answer that, Deborah?
Just because you've been talking so much, Erika, I'll give your voice a rest. Yeah, no, there's no minimum. We work with employers of all sizes, small law or offices up to like Sharp Healthcare is one of our largest employers in San Diego County. So it doesn't matter your size and it doesn't matter how many employees you have. We would just like to have a formalized program and to help you with that.
How do I know if my organization has a formalized telework program or not? How would a formalized telework program be helpful to my organization?
Okay, I can answer that question. I think the key answer to know that is if your organization has this document or policy that can provide to an employee and the employee has clear expectations of what it is and what to expect, that's when you have a formalized program. When there are clear expectations that is well managed, that is evaluated. If somebody else wants to add something that
Well,
might be.
another aspect of it would be to have a telework agreement. So, for example, I have a telework agreement with my with SANDAG and with my supervisor, which goes into detailing which days of the week I telework, how often I'll be checking in with my team or answering emails, what I plan to achieve during my telework period. Because before we went into COVID, I worked 2 days a month at home, and so that was clearly defined. And that agreement is part of the telework program that SANDAG has, for example. So it's got more definition than just an informal one.
Can this program be customized and implemented for landlords to encourage tenants to telework? Deborah or Erika?
We don't have tenants at the moment. We work with employers, most like organizations. Right now, that I think that would be something we would need to evaluate internally, right, Deborah? Do you have
Yeah,
any?
for the most part, because telework is more of those means to work. It has an HR component to it. It kind of has a payroll component of it, ergonomics, and a tenant-landlord relationship is a bit different than that. So it doesn't mean that a tenant-landlord or landlord in this instance couldn't use some of our resources to pass on to their tenants, like sample telework policy or some of the best practices for communicating with employees that work remotely. But I wouldn't really say that it's something that a landlord could request of their tenant. That sounds a little out of scope.
Another question that's come in is, what is the impact on greenhouse gas of telecommuting? Maybe Deborah?
Yeah. Well, telework is actually the best commute not to have with regards to greenhouse gas emission savings. So we have on the employee survey, we ask how many miles is it for an employee to commute to work, and then we aggregate that information based on your work on your workforce and how many people are teleworking, so we can help you calculate what your savings is. And so if you have a green team, or you're trying to calculate what your greenhouse gas emissions are for your workplace, knowing the number of miles saved, you can put that information into a carbon calculator and get that information. So basically telework is even better than carpooling. Telework is better even than riding your bike, because you're not even getting in your car to commute.
Yes.
How do we convince senior management that continuing to telework for some employees can be beneficial? Maybe Erika, you can talk about the module components for that, and maybe Tina, you can share some tips. Erika, want to start off?
Sure. I can say that with the assistant program, Telework Assistance Program, that component of the employee survey, satisfaction survey, would be a great tool for senior management to see what the employees are feeling, what are their benefits, like they're having better life and work balance. I think that would be a very good component for the senior management to assess what to do next. If that is the situation in a company, I would encourage you to take that employee survey satisfaction and present that to your directors.
Yeah. And before you you answer, Tina, with your experience, also in the evaluation module, we have a cost benefit analysis where for your finance team, you can actually calculate the lease savings or square footage savings, price per parking spot savings, those kind of savings also. So that might be another selling point.
Yeah. And for Sharp Healthcare, of course, the driving force in the beginning was just to get involved and just to make sure that we had opportunities available for the employees for job satisfaction. And telecommuting and teleworking was a main job opportunity, and employees wanted to have that offer. So, of course, that was very important. And then, of course, the situation comes about with square footage, leasing new buildings, That's very important. So it was kind of an easy call here for administration to support. I think our biggest challenge was moving the directors and managers on board because they had not been used to uh, looking at two teams as far as one at home and one at work. But administration got on board right away. Of course, then you talk about the money aspect. That puts another little challenge in it to say no, but we need this much money. But for us, that was an easy part.
Wonderful. Thanks for the insight, Tina. Does SANDAG provide any telework grants or subsidies for local employers?
Good
Deborah?
question. At this time, we don't, but we are offering this Telework Assistance Program as part of our employer program at no cost to any of the employers. So we have a fine team of consultants that help us implement the employer program. So that's no cost to you. Because this is a kind of a pilot, we're testing out the data that we get back, the assistance that we provide. The employers that do sign up for this Telework Assistance Program will be given a survey at the end to give us feedback on things that would be most helpful. And we'll take all that together and hopefully roll it into a more permanent component of our employer program. And that might include some assistance. And what that assistance looks like, we're not quite sure yet. But if you can help by signing up for the pilot and giving us some feedback, we'd really appreciate it.
And we have one last question. Within the modules, I don't see my organization's needs covered. Could we have help developing an alternative commute policy that facilitates and incentivizes getting to work by other modes, such as transit, bike, walking, carpooling, EV, or telecommuting?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
well, that
absolutely.
sounds like our employer program.
Yes,
we already have that.
yes. Yes, we have different programs. We have virtual bike events. I'm talking about the virtual stuff because right now that's what we can do, but we have also, yeah, definitely reach out to us, and we have different services and things that we can do for your organization.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. What you'll see on the screen is the contact information for all our presenters. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to them. Additionally, we would love to have your company be part of the Telework Assistance Program. So please take some time today to go through iCommuteSD.com, Telework Assistance, and fill out that form.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.